problem with advanced wastewater treatment systems is, well, as you know, there's 170 properties at Tarawera that can't put them in because of either it's too steep topography, you're too close to the lake groundwater on the lakefront, or you don't have enough, reserve area for the, but your house might be too big, you haven't got enough room left for a disposal field. So when we looked at it based on these figures, that's what we're working at, then reticulation seemed to be a good solution because it would capture everybody. So, the steering committee came up, they looked at us, because 170 people couldn't do it, then that wasn't really suitable for those people. So we had to go to reticulation. In 2006, they gave Okaraka, the district council, the only thing the district council put towards the system of Okaraka was a $1,500 per person subsidy. And they did the same for Rotoiti and Rotomā, and it stayed at $1,500 all the way through. So I made the submission to the annual plan the other day. I said, well, the very least you can do is bring that figure from 2006 to present day value, and not even present day, but 2 years future, because we won't be paying for it until 2026 or something. And I worked out round about it would be $5,000. 2017, we got the $6.5 million grant. Nothing happened for the next 5 years, 6 years till now. And the reason nothing happened was, as soon as we got that grant, council said to us, you have to pay a lump sum. You can't pay it off over 25 years. And that's when everyone said, no, we can't afford that. We're not going to, why can't we pay it off over 25 years like everybody else? So what's happened about 4 or 5 years later, council finally relinquished and said, well, we'll let some people pay it off over 10 years if they can demonstrate real hardship, provided 50% of the people pay a lump sum. So under their option, you see, they will have to carry, they didn't want to carry the debt for 25 years, but now they'll have to carry a certain amount of debt for 10-year repayment for, some people. But under option C, they don't have to carry any debt because people are going to do it all themselves. So I can't for the life of me see why they aren't happy for us to do it. 2021, when they sent us a letter and said we have to give our signed acceptance before they proceed with the scheme. And they said they wanted 75% of the community to give their signed acceptance. They only got 30%. But the next minute they just turned around and started on the scheme anyway. So, I sort of think it's a little bit like, you're asking for us to enter into a contract. They gave us an offer, we never accepted it, and they just went ahead anyway. But,
so can you update us on where you are with the lawyers? You've put the injunction in, is it?
No, we haven't. We've served a letter on the council saying that the action is coming. Because
what action's coming? Sorry,
the injunction and judicial review.
So
where we are at with the action is we've had the first draft of the statement of claim from Ross and McVeigh. We've just had the second draft, so I'm working with Steve and myself, and Dave as well. We're working through it at the moment. And hopefully this week they'll get our comments back, and then I would like to get it lodged as soon as we can. That's what because we've been saying all along, Jim, to council, you've never told us what the scheme's going to cost. You've never told us. And they said, well, and when our community group, we had a meeting with Tanya, the new mayor, early in the new year, just after she took office. And we said the same thing to her. We just, you've asked us to sign a blank check. We don't know what it's going to be. Council said, well, we don't know either, but come June, July, we will let you know the cost of the scheme. When I was on the community board, I pushed and said, why can't we pay it off the same as everybody else? And they said, no, you'll pay a lump sum. We haven't got enough, room to put more debt on our books. That was the argument.
The irony is that one of the statements that came back from Stavros about option C or being able to connect it up yourself is saying you have to do it exactly the same as all the other lakes. Yet the financial support that they've given all the other lakes is not the same for Tarawera. So there's quite a hypocrisy in what he's actually coming up with.
Oh, no, I think, Steve, they have given all the lakes the same because they give a $1,500 subsidy, right?
Pro rata.
That's what they've done. But the other lakes have had funding from government. Like, I said the deed funding or Karaka. The Karaka system back in 2006 was $24,000 per household. They paid $12,000 because the government paid 50% subsidy. And the same with Rotoiti. They were deed funded, but I think Rotomā, Rotowehu they also got extra funding from the Ministry of Health because it was a low socioeconomic area, so they helped to put the sewage in there. So this is the thing, we you know, like council have kept everything very vague and ambiguous. Like they've said, you know, it was 440 properties, now it's 495. And I just asked them the Official Information Act about 3 weeks ago, I said, give us a list of all the properties that you have identified, and we can work through that and see, you know, because do you pay if you've got a vacant lot? If you've got a granny flat over 30 square metres, is that 2 lots you have to pay? But, you know, once we get those figures, we'll be able to work that out. But the problem with the way council's doing it is they're not going to give us, and even if they give us a price in June, I'm sure it'll be a price that's quite palatable, and they'll say, well, it's still only an estimate because we don't, you know, obviously the contract's not finished. But the way it is, they won't, and you've seen it in the letters that we've got, we have to agree to go ahead with the system, and we have to be very careful because once we give our signed acceptance, we are bound into a targeted rate at the end of the scheme when it's fully commissioned and done, and we have to pay it. Right? And we won't be until that very end date that we get the figure. This is what, you know, because basically council want us to give them a blank cheque, you know, for a lump sum payment without telling us what it's going to be. I was very concerned when for stage 1, they just gave the contract to Fulton Hogan. They didn't go out for tender. I mean, if you are going to try and get a good price for a job, you put it out for tender. And they used the argument, they said, well, you know, the $6.5 million, one of the things that the Ministry for the Environment wanted, you know, before they officially give it back, they wanted to make sure that by June this year, a significant amount of money had been spent that the 6.5 million could go towards. So that's why their argument is, well, we didn't have time to go to tender. You know, but I would have thought, you know, if you went back to the minister and said, look, I think it's only fair for the people at Tarawera if we have another month or 2 to go out to tender and try and get a good price for them because it's going to cost a fortune for them as it is. You know, that would, I'm sure the minister probably said, yep, that's okay. Basically what they did in 2018, council gave an estimate of 33,000 per property for the whole scheme. And then they went out after that first letter, you know, the letter I just mentioned before where they want to see if in buy-in, they spent 1.5 million on getting costings done, where Trilogy went around all the houses and measured up and scoped the whole thing. And then they came up, their price was, it went from 9 million for stage 2 up to 17, so it doubled. And now the price overall was 45,000 for the scheme, not plus GST, but they didn't mention that. So, but then when they put the letter out in, when was it, later on, no, it was 1st of July 2022, they put the letter out, you know, option A, B, C. When they put option A out, they said, well, we think that the 45,000 is a bit high and really, you know, it's going to be more like our 2018 estimate at 33,000. But to me, I can't understand the logic because if you've just spent 1.5 million on detailed costings, it's pretty likely that that's going to be the cost. And again, they only got, 202 people who were in favour of option C and only 100 in favour of option A. So it was twice as many people on option C. Plus, a lot of people that voted option A were forced into doing it because council said we're not going to accept your vote for option C. So it's overwhelming, the overwhelming community preference for option C where you do the work yourselves. Now, I've just, you know, there's already 2 or 3 people at Tarawera that have put grinder pumps in themselves under, you know, with council approval, with a building consent. They've done it themselves, it's all up and running. And at the moment they just pump from the grinder pump into their septic tank. And later on they just take it out of the septic tank and put it up connected to the road. Now, they did that for between $10,000 and $15,000 each. I just had a builder from local builders, they're putting a grinder pump installation in a lake called Karaka, and there's another one putting one in a lake at Hamarana, and they sent me the quotes for the job, and it was both about 15,000 to do the job, to get someone to do it for you. So, you know, obviously that's the cheapest way to do it. They want to come in, put all the stuff on your property, and then they take ownership of it. So we pay for it, it becomes their asset. And that's what I'm saying under option C, we shouldn't pay for stage 1 because stage 1 is putting in the main trunk line.
Fred, you've used the figure of 15,000. Presumably that's some sort of average, and properties vary enormously, and therefore access to the main line will be very different for many different properties. So I presume there's a pretty wide range around that number.
There is now what. And I made it quite clear on the form we sent out as well that, you know, if you're concerned, maybe talk to a drain layer, but it's not so much the line coming to the boundary, because that's only 40 mil output thing, that's quite straightforward, but it might be getting access up and putting in, you know, doing your drainage, putting a grinder pump in. But obviously if you've got a difficult section, then it will cost you more. It could be 20, might be 25, I don't know, I'm just guessing. But see, the problem is that when the scheme was sort of affordable, you know, when it was first mooted, it didn't make much difference if everybody paid like $20,000, right? But now it's got the stage where it's looking like it could be 70,000, you know, plus GST. Then why should somebody that specifically bought an easy section, you know, and they can do it for 10, why should they subsidise the people with difficult sections? If lake water quality was such an issue, why has it taken like 15 years and nothing's happened? Why has it taken like 15 years and nothing's happened? Why has it taken like 15 years and nothing's happened? Why has it taken like 15 years and nothing's happened?